American universities are under siege, and today joining us in the studio is Eden Yadigar, a Columbia student and Columbia alumni, Dr. Sheila Nazarian, to give us some context as to what is really happening on the ground. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Eden, I want to start with you. You've been watching this unfold for the past 6 months since October 7th. Is this a grassroots organization?
Absolutely not. And I mean, Jewish students on campus have been ringing the alarm bell for months. And Dr. Nazarian has been ringing the alarm bell for years, and she'll tell you more about that in a minute. But we've been seeing that, what's happening on our campus isn't coming directly from the students. It's coming from a much larger national organization, and we need to be following the money. I mean, if you're talking about the recent encampments, it's no coincidence that schools in New York City were the first to have encampments, Columbia followed by NYU, FIT, the New School, all around the same time, USC and UCLA at the same time within a day of each other, Boston schools, MIT, Harvard, and Emerson all within a day of each other. They all have the same exact tents on every single campus. When you look at the encampments, the majority of tents are the same make, size, and color. Is that a coincidence? Is that grassroots? We need to be following the money to find out who's funding this and who's pushing this political and ideological agenda, because the students have become the victims of this much greater political war, and America's democracy could be next.
Wow, that is so powerful. Dr. Nazarian, you came here from Iran. You know very well what happened in 1971, and you landed at Columbia University when there wasn't so much anti-Semitism. But now the Ayatollah of Iran and the leader of Hamas is applauding this movement. What are your thoughts on that?
My God. I mean, if the Ayatollah is applauding your actions, I think you have a problem. It's really interesting, too. I saw a bunch of activists, these pro-Hamas activists, saying that in order to fund the resistance against Israel, the occupier, we have to support Iran, even though they announced today that they're hanging a Persian rapper from a crane, even though they kill LGBTQ members, even though they have murdered women and have horrible human rights record. We need to support them because they pay for Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Hamas. I mean, the mental gymnastics of these indoctrinated zombies is so severe that they're willing to leave behind every value, core value, including rape is wrong, protect women, equality for all. They're willing to leave all of that behind in the name of this cult mentality, which is anti-Semitism.
It's anti-Semitism is what it is. And Jewish students like yourself, Eden, had to leave campus for your safety because you weren't feeling safe on campus. And so they've now created Zoom for Jews and class for non-Jews. Is that correct?
So Columbia University put all classes through the remainder of the semester on a hybrid option, which means you can attend in person or virtually. But guess who's not feeling safe and therefore attending classes virtually? Primarily Jewish students. And guess who is not feeling unsafe? Those that are making us feel unsafe. And it is so ridiculous to me that our university hasn't addressed the root of the issue and has instead put a Band-Aid on the problem and said, okay, well, yeah, this is an issue, so you don't have to come to campus if you don't want to. I worked my butt off to get to Columbia. My parents and grandparents, you sacrificed so much to get me to where I am now, and I'm not the only one in that situation. And so the fact that Columbia has admitted defeat and cowered to an angry mob and are literally negotiating with people promoting terrorism is astounding. I mean, one of the first things that you taught me as a kid was we don't negotiate with terrorists. If I throw a tantrum, I'm not going to get what I want. I'm not going to get the ice cream cone until I can get it together. Columbia is negotiating with terrorists, so to speak, and it is ridiculous.
Oh my gosh, I just cannot believe this is happening in 2024. And as you saw, Brandeis put out a letter saying any Jewish student who wants to come is welcome. I mean, if this happened to any other group, if Howard said, hey, any black student that wants to come, Dr. Nazarian, how would the world react to that?
I mean, we all know for a fact that if this was any other minority group, this would have been squashed in 0.2 seconds. If they were screaming to lynch the blacks, it would have been squashed in 0.2 seconds. President Shafiq wouldn't come out and say, well, we've given them a portion of campus to chant what they want to chant. That would not have happened if this was about blacks, Latinas, Asians, LGBTQ people, literally anyone else. So the fact is that this has been brewing for years, this anti-Semitism, passing BDS on campus. I've been sounding the alarm. They've been asking me to donate. They've been asking me to be an ambassador. And I keep saying, protect your Jewish students. Something is wrong. I will not do anything with the school as long as they've allowed BDS to pass. So there was a video maybe 2 days ago of all of the university professors who came out to support this encampment. And it was packed. So the thought that goes through my head is, how does Columbia University even graduate or pass this year's students without all of these professors? If they were like, hard stance, we're kicking out anybody who is, pro-terrorist or chanting things against Israel or Jewish students in a violent way, that would not be tolerated. But if it was any other minority group, if they get rid of truly all of those students, that's a huge money loss, right? If they get rid of all of their professors, there won't be enough professors on campus to graduate this year's graduating class. So they're in a really tough spot. I get it, but it's because they're in a tough spot because they put themselves into a tough spot. They've tolerated this kind of behavior and this kind of language and this kind of anti-Semitism for so many years. They've hired these professors that espouse these beliefs and indoctrinate their kids. There was a professor that President Shafiq said that was let go, which clearly he hasn't been let go. He was on the campus yesterday. That basically in class, somebody questioned him and he told the student to get out of his class. I went to Columbia. I was taking a lot of Middle East studies classes. I took classes on Islam because I wanted to know what happened in Iran that created a situation that my family had to escape. I wanted to learn as much as I could about the Quran. I wanted to learn as much as I could about the Middle East. And we had amazing conversations in that class. There was a part in the Quran we were reading and it was translated in English. And I even questioned the teacher. I said, isn't this like watered down a little bit? And she's like, yes, the original context is more violent. And we had really great conversations. That's what college is about. Absolutely. If you can't have conversations, question things, hear from different people's life experiences, what is the point of college? And I think, Eden, you should tell us, can you question things on campus now? Is there freedom of speech? Is there freedom of thought?
I mean, what you're describing is exactly why I wanted to go to Columbia and why I decided to be a Middle East Studies major, because I wanted to be exposed to different worldviews, to people of different backgrounds, different identities. That is, like you said, what college is all about. That's the point of learning. And now you sit in a classroom in Columbia, and especially in Middle East Studies classes, you're taught to view the world through a black and white oppressor and oppressed binary. You have the oppressed victims of settler colonialism, and then you have the settlers, and guess where the Jews fit in?
Right.
So I would argue that, it's rare to come by a class in the Middle East Studies department, I can definitely speak to, but really in all humanities at Columbia, where real free speech is actually fostered, which is, I hear myself say it and it sounds almost laughable that this is an Ivy League institution in New York City, in one of the most progressive cities in the world. This isn't what being progressive really means. And it's been completely hijacked by professors trying to push an ideology and a political agenda, and by students that don't know any better. And it's really frightening.
But your school, Columbia, is protecting the freedom of speech of the mob and not protecting the freedom of speech of the students.
Well, I think the fundamental correction is that what we're seeing come out of that mob isn't free speech. You can't harass and intimidate and follow students. You can't hit students. You can't shove students. You can't throw things at them. That's what we've been seeing. My friends have been victims of physical assault on our own campus.
Wow.
I'm seeing misinformation that it's happening only outside campus. No, my friend was shoved and hit on campus. My friends were stalked, were yelled at, were shoved. This is what's happening at Columbia, and that is not free speech.
No.
If you want to advocate for the Palestinian people, if you want to advocate for a ceasefire, if you want to advocate for Hamas in some capacity, sure, that can be free speech, I guess. But what we're seeing on campus isn't free speech. And it is so hypocritical to me that it's being cloaked as such, because it's absolutely not.
It's just astonishing to me that we are here today in 2024 in the United States of America. We're sitting here, 3 Iranian immigrants, you're first generation, Eden. And I never thought, did you think your children would have to face this, or you'd have to think of where you would have to send your kids for college to make sure they're safe as Jews?
I never thought that it would get this bad, but sometimes it has to hit a wall like this for people to wake up. And I just want to go back to a point that you made in the humanities departments, especially. There have been a lot of bad actors like Qatar, Venezuela, all of these countries. I actually posted it on my Instagram today that since 2012, how much money has come, for example, from Qatar, $3.5 billion into American universities to fund which department? The humanities departments. And if you look at pro-Israel versus pro-Palestine/Hamas sentiment, it is the humanities departments that are way off course in this pro-Hamas support versus the engineering schools or versus the STEM schools, complete opposite percentages, right? So that's one thing. The other thing, too, is 25% of students on college campuses today are from different countries, right? Why do they do this? Well, let's go back to this oppressor DEI whole mentality. You know, they're trying to hit certain checkboxes. We have this many ethnic students. We have this many people of color. The way that the universities have gotten around the original intent of this is to bring students from other countries, like these Arab countries, that check the people of color box, but yet these students are not only paying full tuition, these countries are also giving gifts to the universities. So now we have the professors that are being funded in the humanities departments by these bad actors in foreign countries, right? And they will all leave if Columbia comes down hard. But then you have the students, 25% of them coming from these other countries that are not only paying full tuition, but if Columbia expels them and the, Department of Homeland Security put out a statement saying that there was going to be harsh consequences for student visa holders here that are advocating for Hamas. They put it out yesterday. But think, if 25% or some percentage, high percentage of those people get, sent out of America, not only do these universities lose their gifts, but they lose the full tuition and they lose the little checkbox on their, POC, people of color, DEI requirements. So it's hard, right? And you said yourself, follow the money. I mean, this is where the money's coming from. And these are the consequences that these universities are facing. So really it comes down to, is it about money or is it about the soul of a university and the soul of a nation? And I pray that Columbia and other universities will choose the soul of their school.
I mean, I hope so too. But Dr. Nazarian, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to look at the camera over there and I want you to tell parents what they should be doing before their kids leave and go to college, because we may not be able to control the money that comes in, but we as parents can control how we're raising our kids. So when they go into these universities, they are not indoctrinated.
I think it starts at the dinner table. And I think it starts at the conversations that you have with your kids since they are young. You can even be sending your kids to a Jewish school, and it's great to learn Torah, and it's great to learn the history of Judaism. But if you're not arming your students with words, with arguments to overthrow the same, things they throw at Israel, genocide, apartheid, settler colonialism. If you don't teach them how to respond to those attacks, you are sending them into the lion's den unprotected. So that's one thing. The second thing is spend time with your kids. People always talk about quality time. No, it's about quantity time. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in the car silent, driving them to school. And I'm a surgeon. I'm busy, but I pick up my kids every opportunity that I get. I'm taking them to and from their basketball and all of these things because it's about quantity time. Work will always be there. Your kids, 90% of the time you spend with your kids is before the age of 18. After they turn 18 for the rest of their lives, that's 10% of the time that you get to spend with your kids. So it's really, really, really important that they feel connected to you, that they trust you, that you have these tough conversations about politics, about money, about religion, so that they're used to having these arguments with you in a trusted space so that when you send them out into the world, they're well prepared to speak on these difficult topics.
That is such great advice. And you just made me feel so good because I paused my career to raise these amazing humans. And now I look at Eden and she's the warrior. She's on the right side of history. She's standing up against a mob that is bullying and harassing, and it's scary out there. And Eden, we're all so proud of you.
So
I want you to look
you.
into that camera, and I want you to talk to your peers who are out there in the encampments, your peers who are bullying and harassing. What do you have to say to them?
Well, first of all, thank you. I get so much strength from you and from women like both of you that are setting the tone and the mold for who we all should strive to be. But to my peers, I think that you need to listen. And I think that I need to listen. And I think we all need to listen. And that starts with coming to the table and being willing to have a conversation. And unfortunately, we all know that that isn't what's happening on campus right now. You know, people that are Zionists read as Jews, because the majority of American Jews are Zionists, have been completely shut out of so much of campus life. And we don't want to be shut out. We don't want to be socially isolated. We want to have a conversation because I bet that we can agree on more than we disagree on. And I think that that starts with listening. I think a lot of people misunderstand what the word Zionism is. People don't understand that I'm a Zionist because I believe that Israel has a right to exist as the ancestral homeland of the Jewish people, period. It is not a political ideology. It is simply the need for Jewish self-determination. And when people that don't understand what that word means and misuse it as a slur for the word Jew, it completely drives a wedge in our community. And so I urge you to open your hearts and open your ears and to listen, because we can get much further when we come together and when we work together than when we push each other away and simply refuse to listen.
Wow. I hope that every student across these 200 universities that's in these encampments listens to you, Eden, because it really is. And university is about sitting at the table and having discourse. And you two warriors, you really are warriors. We look up to you. I wish that more people would have the courage to speak up, to speak truth to power, to not hide, to not be fearful that the mob is coming after them. Because when we're united, we're stronger together. And the two of you has set the standard. I am so proud of the both of you and just so honored to be in your presence.
We're proud of you too.
Thank you. Thank you both for being here
Seriously.
today. Continue to speak up. We will amplify your voices. Thank you for being here. I'm Yisrael Chai. You saw it right here on Moms Matter. And together, if we unite, we will bring light to the world. We'll see you all next time.